Hello, beautifuls. How are you doing today? I hope that you are doing well and that you are taking care of yourself as we go about this week, and we're getting towards the end of the week. Just take care of yourselves. That's what's important. For today, I have for us a very short video. I was actually presented with two questions from two people that follow me. One person asked me the question on my TikTok, and the other person asked me a question on my Instagram. Both of those social media links will be in the description below. And I thought, you know what? I want to make a video talking about what they asked me, because I thought, one, maybe someone else might have a similar question, and two, I also figured that you might be interested in hearing my take of the question. So the first question came from my TikTok, and it says, I heard a weird noise in my ear yesterday. Actually, I have weird dreams more than twice a week. Sometimes it's like my spirits are trying to tell me something, but how can I understand them? I only have noises and dreams. I loved this question when I read it. I love this question because it brought me back to when I started my own journey, and I started having these very weird experiences that usually if you tell somebody, they look at you like something's wrong with you. But so the first thing I want to add, to this question in particular, is that we all are going through this journey, and all of our journeys look a little different. So I want to give you my take on it, because I think that we all have different pieces of the puzzle, and that we can assist each other and help each other in certain areas of our practice. And so I will, I'm going to give you my experience, and I want you to tap into your being to then hear your own truth on what you need to do to hear your spirits and understand what they are wanting to tell you. But the first thing I want to talk about here is the dreams. First off, for the person who asked me this question, to anyone else who is watching this, if you do not have a dream journal or a journal where you write down your dreams, I highly, highly recommend it. Your spirits may be attempting to contact you via your dreams. Now, if you're like me, I do have dreams as well, and I do have a journal that I write in, and I write my dreams in. However, there are times, I won't lie, that I do not write my dreams into my journal, and that is mainly because a lot of my dreams happen at very odd times of the night. And during those times, it is difficult for me to wake up. It is so difficult. So I started to implement a recording device where I can record myself at wee hours of the night, early 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the morning. I can just record myself, and then when I wake up, I can just listen back to it and then write down what it is that I said. Now, usually the recording is a little bit, as you can imagine, not very coherent or logical, but usually that, for myself, it helps me, it brings back that memory. It just helps spark that memory back inside of me, and the dream starts to sort of replay itself back to me. So that is sort of how I play with memory dream recalling. So that is something that you can try, because those dreams could have a message. Now, in terms of understanding the dream, I know there's a lot of dream interpretations out there that tells you one thing and this thing and the other thing, and if you feel called and you resonate with something, absolutely follow it. But follow your intuition. Follow your intuition, okay? tap into it. And when you sit and you meditate, meditation is another way to getting to understand your spirits. If there is something that happened in the dream, so let's say the dream had something to do with an animal, let's say, and nothing you read sort of resonates or anything, or perhaps is a deeper meaning, you never know. Sit with your guide, sit with your spirits and ask them, hey, I do not understand this message. Please send a clarifier. Give me some clarification. Through this clarification can happen in many ways. You can ask for a sign. You can ask for another dream. You can, if you have some sort of like divination practice, like tarot, card reading, or water gazing, whatever it is, you can tap into that divination channeling, so that way you can communicate with your spirits that way. Now, in regards to, I believe you said you heard a weird noise in your ear yesterday. So I don't know what that weird noise is, obviously, but I remember getting weird noises in my ear as well. And here's two things I want to say, because I want us to go into our practice with awareness, right? And confidence. So first, I want to ask you, how did this weird noise make you feel? Okay, and I say that because our body holds responses. We may not understand these responses, but they're important if you understand, like, okay, my heart's starting to race, my stomach feels weird, something feels weak. Like, if you begin to understand exactly that feeling, what did you feel? What were some of the signs that your body and mind gave you when you heard this noise? I want us to really tap into what is happening to our bodies, what is going on subconsciously, because we want to make sure that we are talking to spirits that are our guides. We want to make sure, especially if you are new, and I'm not sure, but I'm not sure if you are new or not new to your own specific practice. Of course, I don't know that. But it seems like this weird noise was something, it seemed like these things has been happening quite recently. And so maybe you have elevated and now your gifts are sort of expanding. So it could be that as well. And if that's the case, we want to make sure that we are contacting spirits that we are ready to be in contact with, if you catch my drift. But other than that, how you definitely, from your message, it says sometimes it's like my spirits are trying to tell me something. So it definitely, just from reading that, it seems like you felt safe and you felt called to listen and hear to whatever this message was. Something that helped me when I was having this strange noises in my ear was automatic writing. Automatic writing really, really did help me. And what I love about you sending me this question was that I realized I haven't had that noise in my ear for such a long time. It used to happen a lot and it used to drive me nuts. I went to the doctor and everything just to see some, wonder like what's going on with my ear. But nothing was going wrong with my ears, just was happening. So first I would say go to a doctor if you can, but if you do not feel like it, if you do not feel called to that, or if you already did it, then I would say attempt automatic writing. So if you do not know automatic writing or spirit writing, it is when you basically get into a very relaxed state and you begin to write whatever comes to you. Whatever comes to you. You do not think on it, it's whatever it is. You just write it down. That is a form of automatic writing, and the more you practice it, the more you will begin to differentiate the voices that are being presented, like, okay, that's my voice, oh, that was something else. And and you begin to realize that it is a form of channeling and understanding, but it opens up that space between you and your spirits of like, okay, you are sending me messages, but I do not understand. Please send me, as I said, please send me something else. That is something that you can do. The communication is a two-way street. Sometimes spirit is a bit puzzly, at least puzzle. It may appear puzzly for us because we do not understand it right now. But also know that, okay, I do not understand this message right now, but I may understand it later. So just I would say attempt to do that. It says sometimes it's like my spirits are trying to tell me something. My next question would be, or my next comment would be regards to your meditative practice. Meditation with practice is that, well, at least the way I meditate, I should say, the way I meditate, it puts me into this conscious, unconscious sort of state. And it's actually where my channeling abilities can come through, my oracle abilities come through, is in between this conscious and unconscious state, which is why I always tell people, like, if I give you a reading and let's say like it wasn't recorded or whatever, I do not remember. I'm going to say what I say, and if you say, hey, can you repeat that? I'm like, I do not remember. So sitting in that meditative state, but keeping consciousness, so that way you can perhaps write down what it is that is coming to you. This is not automatic writing, but in a way it's practicing like receiving messages from your spirit, so that way you can then get a flow as to how they communicate with you, whether it's like the noise or for me it started off with noise, but then it started to grow into these images, and then it started growing into like body and emotional feelings. Like, so for example, sometimes like my neck will start hurting and it has no reason to start hurting, or I will get like this, like, or like a visualization will come to me regarding whatever, and so I would write that down because I needed my spirits to basically be very clear, because I was hearing words but they were like broken up. It was like dog, flower, like I couldn't really put together exactly what was being said. But when we started to communicate with each other, whether you're so we started to, I'll jump to that 1 second. So we started to communicate with each other and developing our own language of communicating and giving messages to one another. So that is something that I would recommend that you do to start establishing a relationship. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is establishing a relationship. Now, spirits, what exactly? Is it your ancestors? Is it your higher self? Is it the spirits that have been assigned to you, like your guides? This comes with building a relationship. Let's say that it's your ancestors. You would have perhaps an ancestral altar where you can go and it's like a portal between you and them that you can communicate to them through. So establishing a relationship and understanding, or at least begin the initial process of trying to determine, like, okay, does this feel familial, like family? Does it feel like a guide? Does it feel like my higher self? For those of you that are more into a practice, is this a message coming from like a higher master? or like a higher guide, I should say, you know, a master guide, for example? Or is this like, is it this, for example, if you have animals, maybe it's your, you know, communicating with the spirit of your, you know, of your animals, or the plants that you may have in your house. It's a relationship. So start building relationship to the things that are around you. Start to tap into their energies. So you can start to feel like, okay, this feels like you. Okay, and this is you. Then that will start to develop at least the initial relationship. It's a two-way street, this communication. So they're communicating with you and you are communicating with them. And there is a happy medium to like, okay, you know, we need to give Quavier this message. And so how are we going to do this? Okay, well, one, you know, she reads cards. We can give her message, you know, through the cards. Well, that's not going to work. Let's send her a dream. So they send me a dream. Or she needs to meditate. So when she's meditating, we're going to give her these images. So it's just a relationship and understanding, and you communicating very clearly what's working for you and what's not working for you. And with time, you'll begin to understand, like a lot of people get like numbers, you know, come to them, like 333 or 111 or 2233. I'm just saying, you know, and they can tap into these frequency of these numbers, and like that is how their guides communicate with them, you know. So establish a relationship by meditating, automatic writing, creating an altar space, tapping into the energies of that which is around you, the energy that's around you, becoming very self-aware of what's happening to your body. When are you hearing this this weird noise? Is it at nighttime? Is it around certain people? Mine used to happen around certain people. It used to happen at nighttime. It used to really happen, if I were to be honest, when I needed to meditate. I remember once it got so loud and so uncomfortable that I felt the need to be grounded. And meditation is how I do my groundings, you know, how I feel grounded. And with that, I started meditating. The deeper I meditated, the more quiet the noise became. So these are just some of the things that I tried in terms of, you know, understanding what my spirits were trying to communicate to me. I hope that this answers your question on at least how I, you know, develop this relationship with my spirits. And it's a continual relationship. This is not something that, okay, I've developed a relationship, so now I don't need to develop it anymore. No, this is something that I have to do every single day, every single week, because once again, it's a relationship. So they have needs, I have needs, we can communicate, we can talk to each other. And the more you do it, the more easier it becomes, the more you can tap into that. So I hope that's very clear. I hope so. If any of you have any suggestions, I would like to read them, because hey, we're all, you know, learning along this journey. So I would love to read it, and I'm pretty sure the person who asked this question will also love to read other people, if other people may have comments or suggestions or something that they did or something that they're doing or tried or herb, whatever it is. We didn't even talk about herbs, my goodness. But yeah, leave them in the comments below. So I hope that that was helpful to you. And so now on to the second question. All right, so the second question came from Instagram, and it was related to the decks that I use. So I do not, if you notice on my Instagram or anything like that, I technically tend to stay with the same decks. I mean, I do not have too many decks. Because one, my lifestyle, I have to be very flexible. so that way I can like travel and move around and stuff like that. So I have to be very careful with the decks, but because there's some really great decks out there. And if you have any recommendations, please, once again, put them below, because I may not have heard of it, and yeah, it might call out to me once I know about it. But any which way, so the 5 decks I want to talk about are the decks that I use constantly for myself and for my clients when I give readings. So starting with the classic, we have the Rider-Waite and Smith deck. Okay, the Rider-Waite and Smith deck. I'm trying to correct myself, but yeah, so this deck is classic. Most everyone knows exactly what the Rider-Waite and Smith deck is. I love using this deck because it's usually the basis for all decks. It's the basis for any sort of, if you are a visual person, the Rider-Waite deck is definitely for you. Numerology, symbolism plays a big part in this deck, and I absolutely, positively love it. If you really dive deep into it, you can get some very interesting wisdom from each of the cards. But what I also love, and why I recommend people work with the Rider-Waite deck first, is due to the fact that a lot of the other tarot decks that are made, correct, some of them might not be as explicit. Like, for example, the 6 of Pentacles, you know, like visually explicit. So for example, in one deck you just might see 6 coins on a card, and you might be sitting there like, what the hell does this mean? Like, 6 coins, what? Well, if you know the Rider-Waite deck, then you will know the image of the 6 of Pentacles, and that may help you along the journey of reading the card and tapping into that intuitive message without actually having to use the Rider-Waite. But this is the deck that I first and foremost used when I first began to understand what it is tarot even was. The second deck that I did end up getting, if I remember right, it was the Magical Spell cards. Magical Spell cards. I love this deck for oracle readings. I love this deck because of its numerology. I love numerology. I like to incorporate numerology in my readings. And also what I love about the deck is that it has like these little poems that really helps me tap into that creative energy that I do tap into when I'm giving readings, because it's like this birthing. It's very difficult to explain. I hope that makes sense, but these words spark, you know, it helps spark my intuition and helps me tap into this channeling and allows different messages to come because of the poem that's there. Something else that I love about this deck is that the words. Sometimes I can get like messages like, okay, what exactly, you know, like what area of life is this question really reflecting, for example, and whatever it is, whether it's imagination, good cheer, peace, study, then I know exactly what area of life this is more or less talking about. So once again, the Magical Spell cards is a lovely deck that I like to use. The next deck that I love is the Moonology deck. I love this deck because one, I use this deck for different, I use this deck in different ways. I like to use this deck to tap into whatever message of the moon that is coming up. So for example, next week in tropical astrology, we have the full moon in Capricorn. I work more with sidereal, so I'm never like quite, but anyway, just because I know most people know of the tropical, we're gonna stick with tropical. But yeah, full moon in Capricorn, and so I can find the full moon in Capricorn card and read the message that is here, and then tap into what exactly I need to hear from this message from my spirits. Sorry about that, my battery died on me. But what I was saying, yes, the Moonology deck. So the Moonology deck, something else that I really like about it is that I love the oracle messages that are on the deck. Very similar to the magical spell card deck, is that, you know, they have oracle messages on them that I can then tap into sort of deeper answers associated with the element of the moon, the element of the zodiac sign, whether it's a water, fire, earth, etc. So there's different ways that I love to tap into the knowledge and wisdom of this deck, and how my spirits communicate with me through the deck, so that way I can receive answers or guidance, wisdom. Now the last way that I like to use this deck, and this way is a bit more rare for me to do it like this, but it is possible, in receiving some sort of like a time frame of when something is going to happen. For example, because, you know, there is, like, you know, the full moon Capricorn, full moon Cancer, new moon Capricorn, etc., etc. So by asking my spirits to for answers or wisdom, they may give me, for example, the moon cycle that it may happen in. So new moon, full moon, or first quarter moon, or super moon, or whatever kind of moon it is. Or they may communicate with me which sign, for example. So there's different ways to tap into this deck, and I really do love to use this deck for more answers to, like, not answers, but like wisdoms going forward. This deck for me is very good in, my spirits tend to like to use this deck for more answers and going forward kinds of situations, like what's okay, what is next, or what to expect next, or instructions on what to do next. Really, really lovely. Then we have the Gypsy, the Gypsy Witch. I forgot the exact name. I'll make sure to put it. I'll make sure to write it in so that you guys can see. But I like to use this deck. I think it's called the Gypsy Witch playing card deck, actually, now that I think about it. And I got this deck when I felt, every time I went to pick up my Rider-Waite and Smith deck, I would suddenly feel my spirits begin to get quiet. Like, just quiet. I would shuffle and shuffle and nothing. And so I would flip a card over and look at it and receive no messages, like nothing. It would just be a card, nothing. And so I started it was a call for my spirit. My spirits wanted me to move away from tarot and get more into playing cards. So when I found this deck, I resonated with it because of its playing card abilities. I also resonated with it because the numerology aspects of it, because each card has a number associated with it. So I really loved it for that reason. And on top of that, there's still images on the card which helped spark that visualization ability that I have, and to formulate stories through the messages. The messages through the stories that spirit sends to me. So this deck I really, really, really loved. Actually, this is the deck that helped me tap into my intuition deeper, much deeper, because there's less information with these cards. One thing that I found myself doing was I was relying on other people's interpretations of the Rider-Waite deck. When I first started tarot, I would not trust my own intuition. I would trust other people's interpretation of cards, when really my guides were like, no, we need you to listen to yourself, and these playing cards are going to help you do that. And so that is actually why, one of the reasons why I gravitated to the playing cards, because my spirits needed me to listen to me first, and listen to them first, you know, so that way I can receive the messages that I was supposed to receive, not the messages that was given by someone else through their guides. You know, once again, we all have the piece of the puzzle, and if I'm not being my authentic self, then how is it that I am going to give my piece to my clients, or my piece to myself? You feel me? So that is why I started to use this deck. Now with this deck though, I have to say there are words on the side of the deck, and with these words, some of them can, if you are someone that can get frightened by cards or tarot, or like if you get nervous when like the Three of Swords come out, or the Death cards come out, or the Tower card comes out in the Rider-Waite and Smith deck, if you're that type of person, I would say hold off on this deck because if you fought some of the words that are on this deck, yeah, it could spark a little bit of fear. So for example, with the Eight of Hearts, right, the Eight of Hearts with the cats, it says the cat indicates flattery, but if near number 6, it foretells personal injury. Okay, well, that can be quite scary for someone to read, because then now they're freaking out thinking that they're gonna get a personal injury, and if, yeah, that can get quite messy. So I say so this is the card number 6. I don't know if you guys can see that. So if this card and this card, according to this deck, there's no instructional video, I mean there's no instruction book with, you know, with this deck, by the way. There is no instruction book, so you really have to tap into your own self. But the words that are on it, if this card is next to this card, then there's like supposedly like, oh, this could mean personal injury, for example. So this is where you must tap into your intuition. This deck comes out sometimes with clients, absolutely. Sometimes I heed the messages, but once again, this is trusting yourself, trusting the messages that are being sent to you, trusting your guides, trusting the spirits that are, trusting your spirits that are communicating with you with the messages that are being given through the cards. Eventually, as you can see with some of with all of the cards, I wrote my own little messages on them, my own little words, because this helped me to sort of incorporate my own intuition with each of the cards that are not associated with the words that are here on the side of the card. So that's just a little bit about this deck. The last deck that I want to mention here, which is the base of all of my readings. This is from here on out. If you received a reading from me within the past month or two, or if you've been on my Instagram, you've seen this deck come out a lot. And this is the Asotole deck. This deck was made by Akamora Tarot. It's for the Black Soothsayer. It's such a lovely deck, and I love this deck because it incorporates playing cards, which is now what I am used to and what I love, because it helps me tap into my intuition in a different way. It helps me tap into just like numerology if I feel called to look into the numbers. But what I also love about these cards is that each card has, if it's reversed or upright, it has like a proverb. It has a proverb associated with it, which once again, that helps me tap into that creativity. And when I tap into that creativity and infuse it with my intuition and infuse it with the messages that I am feeling from, that spirit is sending me, then I am able to accurately understand what it is that needs to be said, what it is that's the wisdom that needs to be heard at that exact moment. There is like a major arcana as well. So there's the major arcana, and then there's also the playing card. So this deck is very thick. This is my thickest deck. But this is the foundation. So I usually like to, sometimes I layer. So this deck will always be the foundation, and then I may use like the other decks to help layer on the messages if I feel called to. And something else that I love about this deck is that each card has an African mask associated with the card, and depending on the client, depending on the question, depending on if spirit tells me to, I may be called to determine to look up what the mask means, because there's a message within it that spirit wants to give me, and I can sense it. And once I sense that, then I can go into the book and figure out, like, okay, what is this mask? Because unfortunately, as of now, as I said, each card has a mask on it, and I do not have each mask memorized as of yet. So that will come with loads and loads and loads of time. But usually me feeling called to look up the meaning of the mask is very, very, very particular, I would say. It's a very, very particular feeling, sense that I receive. But this deck is, my spirits are they love to use this deck because the messages that this is our communication. This became the happy medium between us both. I can understand it, they can use it, and the messages that I get from this deck is so clear. It's so clear, and the wisdom that my spirits are able to provide me through this deck is absolutely phenomenal. So yeah, so these are the decks that I love to use. I hope that this video was informative. I hope that you found maybe a new deck that you want to check out, or just found a new way to communicate with your spirits that you may not have thought of before. So I love to be that spark of inspiration for other people to just become closer to their spirits, closer to their ancestors, and most importantly, closer to themselves. So that is the end of this video. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I will see you all in my next one. Oh, if you have any recommendations, once again, of anything that I said, please post them down below in the comment section. If you have any questions that you would like me to answer, I would love to do these videos where I can just sit and answer your questions. So by all means, ask away. I'm friendly, I promise. So any which way, I will talk to you guys later in my next video. Peace, love, and truth, beautiful beings.